Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am all about the beautiful, serene, peaceful garden suite from the Stampin' Up! 2025 September-December mini catalog. Now we're getting towards the end of this catalog and I still have so much to share from it. I feel like I need to go live every day just to share all the things that I want to share. I've been waiting to share this one with you until the DSP and the bundle came back in stock. And the DSP came in last week, and the bundle, as of this morning, still wasn't in stock, but Stampin' Up! Knew that I was going to be featuring it today, and it just came back in stock this afternoon. So it was meant to be. I was meant to share these projects with you today. So I'm excited to share them. I've got just a basic card and then 2 fun folds to share today, and then a bunch of other ideas, as well as all of the products and some other coordinating products for this suite. So if you are joining me, whether you're catching me live or you're watching the replay, please give me a heads up and a hello. Let me know where you're joining me from. And let me know if you've purchased this suite. It's been around for a couple of months, and if you have played with it, I want to know about it. Okay. So while we're at it, while you're all coming in, I'm going to switch to my desk here and show you the products in the suite. So as I said, this has been around for a little while, and this bundle, it was actually the dies that were out of stock. They just came back in stock today. So it is now orderable, and I'm quite excited about that. For me, the star of the show with these dies are these 2 beautiful Dove die cuts. They're just absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to use them in all 3 of our projects today because they're just so stinking pretty. We also have 2 nesting labels. You will see those used today quite a bit. A couple of branches, some stars, and then little envelopes that the doves can carry in their beaks. The stamp set is a sentiment only set. So we have some lovely sentiments, not just for Christmas, but we've got sympathy. We've got a sort of all the best. We've got hugs. We've got prayers, lots and lots of possibilities with this stamp set. So that's the bundle. Now I'm going to, before I show you the rest of the products in the suite, I want to show you another coordinating stamp set. So this is the Peaceful Days stamp set. It is designed to work with the Peaceful Days scrapbooking workshop kit. But I have to say, I have used this set quite a bit with the products in this suite. And you're actually going to see me using some of these stamps today on our 3rd project. But I wanted to highlight it because many people totally miss the fact that there is another coordinating stamp set. And how pretty is this bird image with the etched flowers on the wings? So you're gonna see me using this in a little bit. All right, so back to the suite. We have a beautiful embossing folder called Peaceful Greenery. You're going to see that on 2 of the projects we do today. One of them is the very first one. So I don't have a piece that's embossed just yet, but I will show it to you when we do our first project. And then we have beautiful embellishments. We've got this gorgeous Misty Moonlight and silver ribbon. So this is 1/2 inch wide. It's got silver woven right through it. It's just stunning. And then we have these hues of blue flowers. So we've got sort of an ombre effect in shades of blue. And then actually at the top hiding are some white ones. You'll see me using those today as well. We also have gorgeous glimmer paper. I can't stop using this stuff. I am all about the bling, especially at Christmas time, and I have been using this like crazy. So you're going to see this on several of our projects today as well. And then we have this gorgeous paper. So this was out of stock for a while. It is now back. So the entire suite is available. Knock on wood, it stays for a while. But we have some beautiful imagery. So again, multi-purpose, multi-occasion, not just Christmas. So this is a beautiful sort of wintry pattern. We've got these gorgeous doves. Absolutely love those. Love this vine pattern. We've got a more sort of regular ornate dove pattern. We've got, this almost looks tropical to me. And then we've got a floral. And then on the back, we've got more subdued patterns. This is probably my most used this season. It's got little starbursts on it. We've got sort of a diamond pattern or diamond grid pattern. We've got this gorgeous little bitty floral. This reminds me of a Laura Ashley fabric pattern from the 80s when I was growing up. We have this gorgeous wash in cloud cover, a crumb cake, and then this is basic beige, I believe. So something a little break from the blues. So just so many possibilities with the paper, and you're going to see me using a bunch of it today. All right, before we get going, let me just say hello to anybody who's joining us. Oh, wow, there's lots of you here. Okay, we got Terry. Hi, Jeannie K. Leslie, Sonia, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing, Sonia. Hi, Colleen, welcome. Hi, Susan and Alexina, welcome. It's back in stock, Susan, so run, get it before it goes away. Hi, Susan, welcome. Diana from the hospital. Oh, I hope he's all right. Diana, sending good thoughts that your way. Hi, Gail and Terry. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Julie. Linda, welcome. Patricia, welcome. Oh, you were a teacher for 47 years. Oh, bless your heart. I did 30 and I'm done. I was ready to move on to other things. So yes, I'm very much enjoying my retirement. All right, so our first project is this one. So I posted a really, really simple sympathy card this morning. This one is a little bit more involved, but it's not terribly difficult. So let me show you how we're going to put it together. So to start, I have a piece of cloud cover cardstock that is embossed using that beautiful Peaceful Greenery embossing folder. And you can see as I'm sort of rotating it, some of the details are embossed a little bit more deeply than others, which is a really cool feature. It kind of gives a 3D effect. And we're going to bring that out a little bit more by doing a little bit of ink blending. So I'm going to start with cloud cover. Now I have a full cloud cover ink pad. I know this is not available. You can certainly get the same effect by using a Stampin' Spot. I've just got my ink pad and it's just faster for this video to be able to ink using that. So I'm going to ink up my brush using my cloud cover ink pad. Just so you know, this cloud cover ink is not an exact match, which is why the cloud cover ink pads were not released for general sale. They were made available to demonstrators only. So if I were to stamp this, you would see that this is quite gray as compares to, well, you can see it on my grid paper, as compares to the paper. However, for the purposes of this little ink blending, it's just fine. I don't need it to be an exact match because really we're just trying to bring out that embossed pattern a little bit more. So I'm starting just kind of coming all the way around that foliage around the outside of the label with my blending brush. And again, this is really just to highlight that embossed pattern. It's going to hit the more raised elements a little bit more and make them stand out a little bit. That's really all there is to it. Okay, I went a little heavy down there, but that's okay. All right, so that is the first step. Then I'm going to come in with some Misty Moonlight ink. Now here I'm going to use a very light touch. So I'm going to ink my brush up and I'm not going to put my finger on top of the brush. I want to apply much less pressure and it's just going to kind of dance across my embossed pattern here. And what you're going to see is that it's really going to hit those more deeply etched elements and make them pop a little bit more. So again, just really light pressure. It's really just the weight of the brush that's kind of dancing across here. And you can see how that's really bringing out those elements that are a little bit deeper. So you've got your little corners and the centerpieces there. Okay, so that is all there is to that. Pretty straightforward. We're going to do a little bit of an ink spatter technique as well. So I'm going to bring in my dark Misty Moonlight Stampin' Blends and my bone folder. I'm going to move away from my sample a little bit, and I'm just going to tap my blends against my bone folder. And you're going to see, I'll hold it up in a minute so you can see. It's probably hard to see from the distance the camera is from my desk, but once I get it, there we go. I will hold it up and you'll be able to see the spatter effect. Can you see that spatter on there? I'm not sure. You can see it on the label part. Okay, so that just adds, again, a little bit of texture. All right, now it's really just a matter of assembly. So we're going to start by adhering our card front to a Misty Moonlight cardstock base. This is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So we'll go ahead and fold that along our score line. And then add a little bit of glue to the back of our embossed panel here. And we're going to pop that on. Just like that. And again, flip it over and burnish. That's so that if I have inky fingers, I don't smear it all over my card front. And then I have all sorts of little bits and bobs here. So I've got a Misty Moonlight label. As you recall, there are two different size labels that nest in the die set. So I've got the smaller one cut from a piece of the DSP, and then a Misty Moonlight label. So we're going to go ahead and layer those. So a little bit of glue. Pop that on. And then we're going to stamp our sentiment. So I have this little oval is from the traditional labels dies. And I'm going to stamp with Deepest Sympathy in Misty Moonlight ink. Hi, Mary. Yes, I love it too. Hi, Judy. It's nice to see you. Welcome, welcome. I wonder if you have snow up there in Wawa yet. Well, we've had snow here, but it's all gone. It came and then left really quickly. All right, so I've stamped my sentiment. And we are going to pop that up centered on our label here. So I'm just going to grab a couple of dimensionals. And we'll get rid of our backings and then just pop this on centered on our label. Right about there. Okay, next we're going to add our dove. So this is one of the beautiful dove die cuts. Now I like this one for sympathy cards because to me the outstretched wings feel a little bit like a hug. So I'm going to tuck that in just behind my sentiment. I'm going to add just a little bit of seal to the back of my dove. Kind of hold them in place. Just like that. And then I have some fussy cut branches. So these are cut from the same DSP pattern that I used on the smaller label. So I'm going to adhere a branch kind of in behind my dove here. So I'm just going to do a little bit of arranging, add some seal to the back of my label. And we'll add a branch. And then we're going to add the other one in the opposite corner. So we'll tuck this one down here. And then I have some die cut branches. So these again are from the dies. Now these ones are white. We're going to add just a little hint of cloud cover to them. And I'm just using, again, a pretty light touch with a blending brush. And we're just going to add just a little hint of color. I don't want them to be super dark, but I also don't want them to be white. So I'm just going to take and add a little bit. Oh, that was a lot. This is why we always start off our paper. Look at that big sploosh of color there. Oh, well, that's all right. Doesn't matter. Okay, that's probably good. So now I'm going to take and add a branch to the back of my label, both at the top behind my dove. So up here, I'm probably going to need a little more seal. So I'll add one up here. And then I'm going to add one down here as well. We do one kind of tucking in behind that way. I am going to trim some of this excess off. I don't need all of this bulk here. I just need the ends. So we'll trim that. Let's just have a little less behind our label. And then I have the same branch cut from some Earthen Tones specialty paper. Now this I like to use with this pattern because it brings out, I'm not sure if you can see, there's a little bit of pecan pie in the branch there. And I feel like this just really brings out that bit of brown. And it adds a bit of shimmer as well. So I'm going to cut my branch in half. I'm going to use half up top and then half down the bottom. No, like it. I want on the other side. Let's put it down this way. Yeah, that's better. I have to do this so I'm looking at it from the front. Otherwise, I'd end up with something I don't like. And a little more seal to make sure that stays put. There we go. All right, so that now is going to get popped up on the front of our card. And I just noticed my white one here is a little bit too far out. It's not going to fit in my envelope. There we go, that's better. Okay, so, oh, and that now doesn't want to stay. Stick. Okay, we'll stick a dimensional on there. That'll hold it. So I'm just going to add a couple more dimensionals to the back of my label. And get rid of my backings. And then we're going to pop that right on the emboss label on the front of our card. Just like that. And then we're going to add some white flowers, some of our white hues of blues, or not, as the case may be, flowers. So I'm going to tuck a couple in and around my branches here. Put one right on the branch. Put one up here. I'll tuck another one in here. I'm going to put this guy underneath. Come here. Just tuck it in there. And one more up here. Oh, let's put that one on top. There we go. Okay, and then on the inside, I have just an embossed piece. So I took a 4 by 5¼ inch piece of white cardstock, and I just embossed the edge of the embossing folder. So I essentially, I'll just quick show you, if this were my edge, I just tucked it in the folder up to the edge of the label there and centered it and then ran it through. Okay, and that gives you this lovely embossed border on the inside. And then I have a sentiment from Sentimental Framing is the name of the stamp set. It says, "There are no words to fill the void, but know that I'm here," which I think is a lovely sentiment for a sympathy card. So I'm going to just stamp that again in Misty Moonlight. And then we're going to tuck that inside our card, and we are done. Number 1. Just put that in there like that. There we go. Done and done. You like that? Okay. All right, so let's set these aside. Oh, you like that idea, Mary? I like to do a little bit of embossing on the inside of cards. I think it's a nice little touch sometimes. Okay, let's move on. So our next one is a fun fold. So this is a diamond easel card. So it kind of stands up like this, folds flat like that. Really not too hard. So let me show you how to put this one together. So my card base, it just starts out as a regular 4 1/4 by 11 inch card base. And it is scored at 2 1/8, 4 and 5 1/2. So 5 1/2 is your regular halfway point on a card base. So 2 extra score lines. I'm not sure, you know what, I'll fold them. That'll make it easier. So I'm first going to fold right along that 5 1/2 inch score line. So you can see that that's just right smack in the middle. Okay. This one is the 4 inch score line. I'm going to fold that upwards, make a valley. And then the 2 1/8 inch score line, I'm going to make a mountain. Okay. So eventually this is going to stand like that. Okay. Now I'm going to flatten this down because we do have to do a little bit of folding to make our point here. So I'm going to open this up. We are going to score. I'm going to bring in my trimmer. And we are, oh, I need to mark my center point. Almost forgot. I need to mark the center point on this 4 1/4 inch edge. So half of 4 1/4 is 2 1/8. So I'm just going to take my pencil and put a little tick at the 2 1/8 mark. Then I'm going to come in with my trimmer. And I'm going to line up that 2 1/8 mark right with my cutting guide there and that first score line. Okay. So I've got it lined up. I'm going to make sure I'm using my light gray blade to make sure I'm scoring, not cutting. And we're just going to give that a good score. Okay, now I'm going to rotate and do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to, again, line up that 2 1/8 mark and my score line and score. Okay, so now you can see I've got like triangles there. All right, so that's all there is to this. That's the only fancy scoring there is. So now we're going to go ahead and fold these inwards. This is going to create our point that is going to form our diamond when we make our easel. So these should meet in the middle. If they don't meet exactly, if your point isn't perfect, it doesn't really matter. It's going to get covered anyway. But you want them to meet pretty close to the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these little flaps down. So there's 1 and 2. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of decorating on these upper sections here. So I've got some of our DSP. So there are two pieces. One is going to go in the smaller section and one in the larger. So the smaller one is 1 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then the larger one, I think, is 1 3/4. Yes, 1 3/4 by 4 1/8. So we're going to go ahead and glue those. So 1 3/8 goes up top. And then 1 3/4 goes on that middle section. Now, if you don't like measuring 8ths, you certainly could cut these to 4. I just like a narrow border. That's all. You probably know that about me if you've hung around in like the time. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to add a little bit of ribbon to this top section. So I've got some cloud cover faux linen ribbon. We're going to go ahead and add some across here. So I'm going to take a glue dot. And tuck that underneath. Don't worry, that nasty end is going to get hidden. I'm going to give this a twist in the middle. And I'm going to stick that down with a glue dot. And that is so that it looks like it's gathered when we add our bow. Okay. So I'm going to take and grab a glue dot here with my take your pick. I'm going to put my glue dot approximately center here. I'm going to bring this across and give it a twist. Just press that into place. Don't worry if it doesn't stay. We're going to add more in a minute. And then trim it off my roll and then secure that on the other side with glue dot. Okay, now you certainly could wrap ribbon around here and tie. It just wastes a lot of ribbon. I thought, oh, I didn't get a glue dot there. Come here, you. Glue dot didn't come off the roll. I find I get way more mileage out of my rolls of ribbon if I do this little trick rather than wrapping and tying. If you don't want to fuss with this, you certainly could just wrap and tie a bow. So I'm going to add one more glue dot here to secure this little twisted part. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and tie a bow. So we'll take our ribbon, make our little bunny ears, and tie a cute little bow. I love this ribbon. It is so easy to work with. And then that is going to get adhered right where our little twist is. Okay, and that little twist simply makes it look like this is actually tied rather than the bow stuck on. That is all that is about. Okay, all right, now we can go ahead and glue this flap with our nasty ribbon ends to the back of the card. And that is going to secure it. So this is kind of like a book fold for those who know what that fun fold is. So we'll fold this over, give that a good burnish. And you're going to see how that's going to pop up like that. Okay. All right, let's work on our focal image. So we have some squares, layering squares that are going to get rotated into a diamond orientation. So we're going to stamp our sentiment, Peace on Earth, on just this piece of the DSP. This is 2 5/8. So I'm going to stamp it in that diamond orientation. I'm stamping in Secret Sea ink. So we'll just ink that up and we're going to stamp it. I stamped mine quite centered on this. I'm going to go a little bit off center just so I have a little bit more room for my dove. Okay. And then we're going to adhere that to a piece of glimmer paper that is 2 3/4 square. So that's going to get glued on there. And I'm actually going to use, yes, I'm using liquid glue on glimmer paper. I find it actually adheres better than seal does on glimmer paper. It does take a little bit longer to set up and, you know, stick, for lack of a better word, adhere. That's the word I was struggling to find. And, but it does work. I find it holds better. And then that's going to get layered on a 3 by 3 inch square of cloud cover. So again, just a little bit of glue. Put a little more down here. And we'll pop that on. And I'm just going to flip this over and give it a good burnish, make sure everything is secure. And then that is going to get adhered to our little diamond point here. Okay, now you're going to find that the points, the center point, run right across where your fold goes. Okay, so again, a little bit of glue on our card base on the point here. And then it's really just a matter of layering that on there, making sure everything is nice and straight. Okay, and you can see how that's going to stand up. All right, we're going to add our dove. So our dove is going to kind of be flying on from the edge here. I'm just going to add a couple of dimensionals kind of side by side. And we'll add our dove. Just like that. And then I've got 3 little glimmer paper or glimmer stars here. So we're going to add those. And the easiest way to maneuver these is really to just put a little dab of glue where you want them to go. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And then just take and drop them on. Now, I like these to go straight up and down. It bothers me when they're not. That's just me. You could do them sort of willy-nilly if you wanted to. I just think that they look better straight. And that's actually unusual for me. If you know me, you know I like things kind of cockeyed and off-center and non-asymmetrical, but these things just, for me, they need to be straight. Okay, now for the inside, we have to get a little bit creative on the inside because when the card is closed, we see part of the inside, right? So this is a very small area to write a to and from. If you wanted to write more, you certainly could add another white panel on the back. But if you're like me and you send about 300 Christmas cards, writing love the Gerses is just perfect. That's all the space I need. All right, so to create that, we have a, what is this, 3 by 4 inch piece of the DSP, and then this is 3 1/8 by 4 1/8 Secret C. So we're going to go ahead and layer those. Let's get that centered on there. And then this little square measures about 1 7/8. So this is from the Stylish Shapes dies. And we're going to stamp a sentiment from Joyful Tidings, I think it's called. It says Tidings of Joy this Christmas season. So I'm just going to stamp that in Secret C ink on my little square here. And we're just going to pop that centered on that panel that we just adhered. So a little bit of glue. Make sure it's right side up. And you want it to be relatively centered. And then when we go to glue this inside our card, we need to make sure that we pop it up so we have a catch for our easel. So we're going to add a couple of dimensionals, 4, 6, you know, a couple-ish, maybe 5, to the back of our panel here. And then that is going to get glued inside our card with near a little border. Hopefully it's relatively straight. It's always a bit of a challenge when you're not looking straight down, but there you go. There is your finished easel. You like that one? And the nice thing is that it hides that little sentiment on the inside. So there we go. Easy peasy, little fun fold. I hope you like fun folds because I'm doing another one. I don't know. I've been on a roll with fun folds lately. So here we go. So this is total change, not Christmas, not blue. So this one says big hugs for a good friend. And when you open it up, you get this, all the best in your new adventure. So this would be great to give to someone who is maybe leaving your workplace or moving away and you wanted to send a special something, maybe for someone who's retiring. You can put a happy retirement sentiment in there and Bob's your uncle. All right, so let me show you how to make this one. Okay, so we start with just a plain 4 1/4 by 11 inch card base. This is basic beige cardstock, scored at 5 1/2. So I'll just go ahead and fold that in half for now along my score line. I feel like I didn't measure this very well because this is not folding in the middle. Let's see if we can fix that up. This is what your bone folder this was built for. Fixing your measuring errors. All right, that's in the middle. And then for our inside pop-out piece, this is my blank template. We have, sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. Here we go. We have a 9 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock, and it is scored at 2, 4, and 6. Doesn't get any easier than that. 2, 4, 6, right? Okay, so the larger segment is the one that is going to be where you write your sentiment. It's this portion here. Okay, so we're going to start with that at the bottom, and I'm going to fold that first score line upwards to make a valley. Okay, the next score line is going to be a mountain, so I'm going to fold that over and then up. And then the last one is another, sorry, did I say mountain? Valley, mountain, valley. I do know the difference between a mountain and a valley, I promise. Okay, so you can see how that's going to form our little pop-out step. So we are going to adhere all of our DSP and everything before we adhere this inside our card. It's much easier to do when it's not stuck inside the card. So I want to show you a nifty way to use the dies in this set. So as you know, the stamp set that coordinates or that comes in the bundle is a sentiment only set. However, we have this really cool branch die. So what I like to do with this is to make myself a little stencil and then use that with my blending brushes to create vines and branches. So I've done 2 already. We're going to do this third one. It's not hard to do. It's just a little bit time consuming, not overly. It's, I mean, more time consuming than stamping, obviously. So I did some of this ahead of time, just so, you know, we all get to eat dinner tonight. So I have Basic Beige and Crumb Cake ink. I'm going to start with Basic Beige. Get this out of the way and bring in my blending brush. And I basically want to add sort of branches along the long bottom edge here. So I should mention these pieces are 1 7/8 by 4. Okay, there are 2 the same size. So I'm just going to ink up my brush, lay down my stencil, and it's very little ink required. You do not need a whole lot of ink to get a cool little branch image here. In fact, I like them a little bit lighter and faded. You could certainly go really dark if you wanted to, but I like the look of it being a little bit lighter. Okay, so just like that. And then I'm going to come in with some crumb cake. Actually, you know what? I should do my label for the front at the same time, just while I have my ink out. That it would be more efficient, wouldn't it? So let's just add a couple of branches to our label as well. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to bring in the crumb cake. So we'll set that aside. And we're going to do the same thing, same stencil, but using the crumb cake ink. So for this, I like to overlap the branches a little bit. It looks a little bit more natural. There's not too many gardens I've seen where the branches all grow, you know, same direction, same height, unless, you know, it's a well-manicured garden, which mine is definitely not. I like a more natural look, so I tend to emulate that in my stamping as well. So just a couple more leaves here, and maybe a couple down here. And we'll maybe do one coming on in a different direction. Over here. There we go. Isn't that simple? We'll add a couple of the crumb cakes to our label as well. It's really very little ink. Like, I don't know if you're noticing. It's like maybe 3 or 4 glides over the stencil, and you're good. You don't have to overdo it. There we go. Isn't that pretty? All right, now I really wanted to add a pop of color on this card. And so I brought in one of the stamps from this Peaceful Days set. Let me just grab the stamp set. So there are 2 flowers. We're going to use this vine on the label on the inside, but this little flower, we're going to stamp and add a little bit of color. You can see I've done it here already. We're going to add a little bit of color to the piece we just stenciled. So I'm just inking up with some Petal Pink. And I'm just going to add a little pop of the pink. Yeah, well, let's do one more. Kind of do one up here. There we go. And then we're going to add a couple to our label as well. There we go. Done and done. All right. Hi, Jen. Welcome. All right. So I'm going to bring back my center, this pop-out piece. You're going to see that these two panels will fit on like this. So I'm going to do them kind of like the vines are growing inwards, just like that. Now, these segments are 2 inches wide. These are 1 7/8. That's just to make it easier for things to fold. They are going to be flush with the edges here. Okay, so you're not going to have an equal border, but once we glue it inside the card, it's not going to matter. It'll look equal. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and glue these on. So one here, nice and straight. And then one up top. And then this guy, I'm going to glue right flush to the fold. And again, centered side to side. So this one is, it's larger than this panel, but it's essentially there to hide the panel once we put our card together. So again, a little bit of glue here. I got a huge little glue booger there. Let's get rid of that. There we go. And then we're going to pop this on. All right. So now I'm going to take and squish this all flat. And what's going to happen is we're going to apply glue to the back of this side. And we're going to stick it so that we have an equal border 3 sides. Okay, so let's do that. A little bit of glue. And again, we want to make sure that it's the rough edge there that is at the edge of our card. The folds to the inside is what I'm trying to say there, if that didn't make sense. Okay, you can see how that's going to open like that. Okay, now that that's glued down, I'm going to put glue all over this panel. So all over the white and all over the DSP. And with that squished flat, I'm going to close my card. Just burnish that really, really well. Doesn't the pop of color make a huge difference? And there you go. Isn't that magical? So easy to get it glued and centered and all the things. Now we need our little step out piece for our label to adhere. And somewhere in my little bag of goodies, I have, where is it? I know I have one because I remember cutting it. There it is. All right, let's get these out of the way. I'm going to get my stencil out of the way. Oh, don't fly away, little dove. All right, so to make our little pop-out step here, this piece is 2 by 2, okay? And then I've scored it, I'll hold it up at a 1/2 inch. So 1/2, 1, and 1 1/2. It's maybe easier to see from this side. There, 1/2, 1, and 1 1/2. So I'm gonna fold along all those score lines to essentially make a little box, okay? And you do wanna burnish this because it does need to fold pretty easily so that we can close our card. Okay, so you can see how that's going to form a little box. So what I'm going to do is fold it in half. Whoops, I just about lost a flower. Don't fly away. So this is going to get glued. I'm going to put glue just on this outside little segment. I'm going to put it on so you can see what I'm talking about. So just on this first little segment here. And what I'm going to do is stick this on so it's centered on my little panel here. Okay, and then I'm going to put glue on the top one here. And I'm going to close my card. Whoops, not stuck yet. There we go. You got to give it time to adhere. Okay, and that gives you your little pop out step. All right, now that that's done, we can finish decorating the inside of our card. So I have a white label and a crumb cake label, again, cut with the dies. And on this one, I am going to stamp all the best in your new adventure in crumb cake ink. So let's slide this stuff out of the way. Stamp this right side up. It's always a good idea. Right across that label, just like that. Okay, now I'm coming in with this sort of little viney flower image from the Peaceful Days stamp set. And we are going to stamp it kind of going off the top and off the bottom. Okay, and then I've got a couple of little fussy cut flowers that we're going to cover up the crumb cake and make them pink, because pink is prettier when we're talking flowers. So a little bit of glue, and we'll just pop these right over top. 1 and 2. Okay, and then that is going to get adhered to our crumb cake label. So a little bit of glue. And again, flip it over and give it a good burnish. And then to adhere this, we're just going to put a little bit of glue on the front of our little step here. And then that is going to sit. Now you don't want to put it right flush to the bottom. You want it to be up a little bit. That just makes it easier for the card to close. So I'm just going to adhere that. Give a second to kind of get sticky and get stuck, and then close and burnish. Okay, so there's my little label. And then I really, really, really wanted to add my dove to the top here. However, what happens when we close the card, this label moves up considerably and you end up with the doves peeking out the top. So we can't do that. So we are going to tuck our dove in behind. However, we're going to do just a little smidge of inking. So I'm going to come in with just a hint of crumb cake along the edges of the wings. I'm going to do it on both of my doves here. And then I'm going to come in with a little bit of petal pink as well. Just a little hint. I'm going to take most of it off on my grid paper. And then just a little blush of pink. There we go. All right, so we're going to add our dove, sort of flying up behind our label. So again, a little bit of seal. And he's just going to kind of be flying up from behind. And then this guy is going to be flying up from the bottom. So again, a little bit of seal. And we'll tuck that in just like that. Okay, so there's the inside done. Now for the front, it's pretty straightforward. I have another panel that I've embossed using the Peaceful Greenery embossing folder. So this is again 4 by 5¼ inches. And I wanted to add just again a little blush of pink. So I'm going to come in and do a really light bit of ink blending over that embossed pattern with some petal pink ink. It's really subtle, but you can see the difference, right? Can you, well, maybe I'll put it beside here. You can see the difference, right? It's just it just warms it up a little bit. So again, all the way around. I'm not being super careful. It's just to add that little blush. There we go. All right. So to that, we are going to add some of our basic beige, what is this? Basic beige classic ribbon. I like to go a little bit below center across my card front. So again, glue dot on the end of my ribbon, lay it across my card front, glue one end to the back, and then again, another glue dot. We'll glue the other end, just like that. And then that is going to get glued to our card front. So just like that. So again, a little bit of glue. And we'll pop this on. Now I wanted to add lots and lots of layers to the front of this, but because of all the bulk we've got inside, you really need to keep it pretty simple on the front. The inside is where the wow factor comes in. So I've got my label. I've already done my stenciling. So I'm just going to stamp Big Hugs for a Good Friend in Crumb Cake ink. And make sure that that is inked. My crumb cake is getting a little bit dry. It's all the ink blending I've been doing. And then that I did pop up. So again, a couple of dimensionals. Oopsie. So that is going to get centered again in that embossed label. Just like that. And then our last couple of touches, we're going to tie a little bow. This is gorgeous ribbon as well. This is from the annual catalog. It's part of the gallery suite. Can't think of the name right now, but it is beautiful ribbon. It's got a nice little sheen to it. It's nice and soft. We will add a glue dot to our bow. And just tuck that in right where the ribbon and the label meet. And then the last touch again are some white flowers. So I'll add a couple of these guys. One down here. One here. I'll do one. Maybe I'll tuck one up here. Now we'll put it up here. There we go. All right, there you go. You like that one? Pretty easy fun fold. Nothing super fancy. Not hard to put together. But again, nice little wow when you open it up. All right, let me bring back all of our projects for today. These guys don't want to lay flat. I'm going to have to do some serious burnishing with those. So there are our 3 that we put together. And then here are a few more ideas with this pretty sweet. So this was a holiday card that was part of my card buffet last month. Nice and simple. Here's that really simple sympathy card I posted today. I love that pop of the Earthen Tones specialty paper on that. And then here's a Christmas card. Again, lots of glimmer paper. This was one for my Christmas in July event, which seems like, you know, an eternity ago. Here is that same fun fold I demonstrated last week, at this time using this suite, that inside step card. This is a fun fold I did, weeks ago. It opens out like this. Okay, and then this is another one for my Christmas in July event where I did some more stenciling. So this one pops off and this one opens and we have that pop out effect on the inside. So there you go. Lots and lots of ideas for the Peaceful Garden Suite. Do you guys like them? All right, let's see if there's any questions. Joyce is not a fan of doves. Okay, fair enough. Okay, thank you, Jackie. That's so kind. Thank you, Susan. All right, the label is beautiful. I have to agree. All right, I'm glad you like these. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna get off my desk. There we go. Thank you for joining me today. I am so glad you like these cards. I have so much fun with you each week. I really look forward to going live with you every Tuesday. So next week, I'm hoping to feature some new products. I have not yet had a chance to play with my new online exclusives. I also have some new stuff from the new mini. I can't share it yet, but I do have some things to share with you in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. I am probably going to be featuring some new stuff. I'm kind of over Christmas cards. I've been doing them since July. So I still have a few more things that I want to share from the current mini, but I'm getting ready to move on to some new things. So stay tuned. All right. So I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.